Hello, my dear children. Namaste and welcome to yet another session of our ICSE Class 10 Terminology series. This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here on this super amazing platform of Vedantu, which is Vedantu 9th and 10th English. Well, guys, yes, few more days, a few more weeks for your exams to go, right? So anyway, I think to give your preparations that last minute brush up and that final touch up, for you to feel completely prepared. I think this terminology series is certainly very useful, especially for those of you who are not so good with biology terms. Many students come up to me and tell me that, which is exactly why we started this series for you, wherein we discuss just the important terms from every chapter in your syllabus, right? So let's get started. Today we are going to be discussing the chapter Transpiration. Now, children, talking about that, let me just make it very clear that we are not going to be discussing concepts in this. Only whatever content is required for you to understand a particular term. That's it. We are not going to be diving deeper into the topic. Okay, that's basically because I think it's going to be sounding very, very repetitive. In case you still have trouble understanding certain concepts, everything is right here on this channel, children. So go up to the Umang series playlist, check out every video that we've made, and definitely you will find something that's useful for you. And then on top of Umang series, we've also made Bio Bites in 15-minute series, VIP series, so many things for your benefit. So check them all out. Definitely you will feel much better prepared. All right. So here is my positive quote for you today. This is what it is. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Isn't that so true? Because quite often we see that most of us, we have this innate human nature to keep putting the blame on somebody else or on circumstances in general. No, I did something wrong not because something was wrong with me, but something like this happened to me, or somebody else did this to me. That's the reason, and not really because something is wrong with me. But there are certain people, there are very few people who actually take it in a very calm manner and take every negative thing that they come across as a learning experience. I think that is how everyone should be. That is how all of us have to be, because that's the only way we are going to become much better individuals. Isn't that what matters at the end of the day? Whatever we learn, whatever marks we score, whatever how many ever lakhs and crores we may earn as money, the human values that we develop within ourselves is what matters the most, right? Okay, so let's move ahead to look at the first term, which is, of course, title of the chapter, right? Transpiration. What would this be? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant. What are the aerial parts of the plant? The upper parts of the plant body. Those which are above the ground are the aerial parts of the plant body. This is what we call transpiration. Okay, so where does it occur? Of course, in general, I think there's a tendency for us to write an answer that it always occurs through the stomata, but it's not always the case, right? So let us have a look at that. There are three major types of transpiration depending upon which part of the plant body they occur through. Majority of the transpiration in the plant body occurs through the stomata or the stomata. Right? So we call that stomatal transpiration. So this accounts for a huge majority, like about 90-92% of all the transpiration in a plant body occurs through the stomata or the stomata. Now, where would you find the stomata? Any idea? Yes, the outer layer of the plant, which would be the epidermis, and there would be guard cells in between those, right? And these are the stomata. So this is one stoma, which is singular. Stomata, which would mean the plural form, more than one. Right? Okay. So next is cuticular transpiration. Now adding back to the diagram which I showed you just now, I showed you the epidermis. Right? This is what the epidermis would be, the outermost layer of the plant body. Now outer to the epidermis, there's also a waxy protective coating in most plants. Right, children? So that is called the cuticle. The cuticle. Transpiration that occurs through the cuticles of leaves and green herbaceous stems, we call that cuticular transpiration. Of course, compared to stomatal transpiration, the extent or the amount of cuticular transpiration will be very, very little. Okay, right. Now the next one is lenticular transpiration. What is that about? If you remember the word lenticels, lenticels are tiny openings found along the bark of woody stems, found along the bark of woody stems or older stems. Right, children? So lenticels generally breathing does happen in all these older plants and all of those through lenticels as well, just like it occurs through the stomata. And some amount of transpiration also occurs through the lenticels. So we call that lenticular transpiration. Stomatal, cuticular, lenticular. 3 kinds. Okay, right. Now coming to diffusion. In general, what is diffusion? Movement of something from an area of its higher concentration to an area of its lower concentration, right? That's what we call diffusion. So this could be about anything. It could be about solids, it could be about liquids, it could be about gases, anything at all. So diffusion, as far as plants are concerned, is a very, very important phenomenon because breathing, release of the byproducts of photosynthesis, which is mainly oxygen, all of that occurs by diffusion. Wherever these gases are higher in concentration, from there to the area of lower concentration. For example, inside the plant cell, say for instance, carbon dioxide is of high concentration when the plant is breathing or respiring, and from there it just diffuses to the surrounding atmosphere, which is relatively lower in concentration. This is what we call diffusion. Simply put, you can think of any of those examples like putting a drop of blue ink in clear water, in a beaker of water. You just put a drop of ink and what would you observe? It's beautiful to see that, right? Especially if it's a glass beaker that it's happening in or a glass tumbler that it's happening in. It's amazing to see that how that single drop of ink spreads through the water and ultimately evenly diffuses across it. That's also an example for diffusion. Right, children? Remember, this is completely different from osmosis. Very important for you to know that difference because in a 1-mark section, anywhere, quite possibly questions in some form could be asked. All right. Whenever osmosis has to be the answer, or whenever we are talking about osmosis, remember the term semi-permeable membrane has to be there. But in diffusion, we don't really mention all that because it's not required. It can occur with or without any membrane. Right? Okay. And then tracheary elements. What are those? Tracheary elements are those specialized cells in the xylem. Now, what is xylem? Xylem is basically one of the conducting tissues of the plant body, xylem and phloem. Xylem helps in water and mineral transport. Now, tracheary elements especially are specialized cells which are found as part of the xylem, which are highly specialized. They really perform very well the function of water and solute transport up the plant body, right? So up the plant body. This way, unidirectional transport. They are one of the elements, one of the major elements which are part of the xylem tissues. Okay, right. Now the next is cuticle. I think I've already told you this. When I told you about cuticular transpiration, I've told you what exactly the cuticle is. Remember, the epidermis and the outer protective waxy covering. So why is it important? So especially as far as a plant is concerned, now invertebrate or a shell and all of that is mentioned there, but as far as a plant is concerned, this is all that you need to know. Why is it important? It helps in giving added protection. It helps in preventing excess water loss as well. In the case of some plants, like especially in the case of desert plants, cuticles would generally be really, really thick as compared to normal tropical plants. Right? So that's because they need additional protection from losing excess amounts of water. All right, next is guttation. Another thing that's very, very important. Guttation is the loss of water in the form of liquid drops. Usually it occurs due to root pressure, right? So what exactly is root pressure? Root pressure is basically the phenomenon, the term that we use to refer to the kind of pressure which builds up in roots. But when does pressure build up in roots? If you remember, if you go back to all the lessons we've done a few months ago, remember that in a root cell of a plant, all the time water enters by endosmosis. It's always encouraged that in the root hair cells, the mineral concentration or the solute concentration is maintained at a much higher concentration than the surrounding soil environment. This is maintained so that water can easily diffuse from the outer areas, from the surrounding environment into the root hair cells, right? So this is absolutely encouraged. This all the time occurs inside plant cells or the plant root hair cells. And this is super important because that acts as the triggering point where root pressure builds up, and from there it acts as a pushing force to push up the water from the bottom parts of the plant to the upper parts of the plant body, so that transpirational pull and everything else can just add to it. This is how water column is always maintained in a plant body, right? Now, what about guttation? I've told you about root pressure now. What about guttation? It's different from transpiration basically in two things, majorly because it's the loss of water in the form of liquid droplets. And secondly, it occurs through specialized openings which are called hydatodes and not through stomata. Hydatodes are the specialized openings through which plants lose water through guttation, by guttation. All right, so this is it. So especially this would be seen in the case of really short really short herbaceous plants, wherein during the night time not much of transpiration has occurred, but then whatever excess water the plant had during early mornings, when you look at them, you might find them like beautiful water droplets found at the tip of the leaves, right? This is guttation. So it's a means of helping the plant eliminate excess water, especially when transpiration hasn't been occurring. All right, so that's guttation. Now comes bleeding. All very, very closely related terms. Now, bleeding is it's got nothing to do with blood as far as plants are concerned. But then, why do we use the term bleeding? First of all, remember, this is just exudation or release of cell sap. Okay, all the fluidy material inside a plant cell, that's what we call cell sap. Release or exudation of that cell sap is what we call bleeding. But why bleeding in the first place? Couldn't we just have called it exudation of sap or something like that? This is basically because bleeding occurs, or this kind of phenomenon occurs when in a plant there is a cut or some kind of an injury. It may be because of man-made reasons, it could be because of some other accident, whatever it may be, some kind of accidental cut or injury that occurs in the plant stem. We would observe that plant, the cell sap is exuding out, the cell sap is just oozing out, right? This is what we call bleeding. So majorly the relation between the term bleeding, or the relevance, comes only because of the fact that it's occurring as a result of a cut or an injury, much like in our case, right? But in our case, it's not cell sap, it's blood which comes out. All right. Now, a couple of important terms that you need to know. Epiplastic pathway and Symplastic pathway. Now, have a look at this, children. Epiplastic pathway, what exactly would that be? The movement of water. Okay, the movement of water, this yellow, orangish yellow line, can you see that here? Yes, shall I just darken it for you in red? Yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is epiplastic pathway, wherein water moves, right, through the cell walls of plant cells without crossing the cell membrane. Do you see that? That is exactly why it's just coming here, passing on to the cell wall of the adjacent cell. It's not really penetrating deeper inside the cell membrane. We call this epiplastic pathway, which occurs through the cell wall. Now comes the next term, which is mentioned here in the diagram as well, which is Symplastic Pathway, or Symplast as it's also called. This is the movement of water through the network which we call plasmodesmata. Do you see this blue line here? Yes, these blue lines here, that represents Symplastic Pathway. Now, if this is a cell, if this is a plant cell, okay, say for example, this is a plant cell, this is the adjacent plant cell. Remember, these tiny channels of cytoplasmic connections between adjacent plant cells, we call them plasmodesmata, right? So in the case of Symplastic Pathway, movement of water occurs through the plasmodesmata, right? As you can see here very, very well. One level deeper than Epiplastic Pathway. Epo is more of superficial, Sym is more of underlying, all right? Yes, so now comes another term, which is wall pressure. Okay, now this is one term that you would probably be coming across in a lot of Section B questions as well, like as part of a Section B question. Wall pressure, as far as a plant cell is concerned, whenever I tell you the word wall pressure, whenever you come across the word wall pressure, this is what needs to come into your mind, the cell wall. Because this is the pressure exerted by the cell wall of the plant, or a cell wall of the cell on the inner contents. So if this is the plant cell, for example, we know that the outermost layer is the cell wall. Inner to that would be the entire living contents, including the plasma membrane and the cytoplasm and the vacuole, the nucleus and all of those. So the cell wall, it exerts a certain sort of pressure on the inner contents of the cell. This is what we mean by wall pressure. Right, children? Very important for you to know. Turgor pressure, wall pressure, and all of those terms in all these plant physiology chapters, you would be coming across all these quite often. All right? Yes. Now, wilting, something really, really simple, but very important. And now I put this term because many children do come and ask, ma'am, what exactly is wilting? It's a very, very simple thing. It's the dehydration of leaf cells. In general, when we say a flower has wilted, it's just it blooms, and then over a couple of days, what happens is you would see it wilting down. Right? So the dehydration of leaf cells, dehydration of plant cells would be the reason for wilting. So as far as leaf wilting is concerned, we can describe it as dehydration of leaf cells resulting in closure of stomata, because from the guard cells which surround the stomata, water loss occurs, dehydration occurs, right? And as a result, what happens? They would come together. This opening wouldn't be relevant anymore. This opening cannot stay open anymore because it cannot afford to lose any further water. So that's the stomatal opening, and the guard cells just come close together and they just close. And you would see that the leaves themselves end up wilting. All right. So that's it, children. Now it's time for me to tell you something important. For those of you who are in ICSE Class 10 this year, I have something else to tell you. Whatever I'm telling you right now will be more relevant to people who are going from ICSE 9th to ICSE 10th this year. All right. So children, you can be part of Vedantu's amazing live classes with a lot of fun and high level quizzes. And the good thing is that you can compete with students across the country and across the world, and that too with the actual feel of a real classroom, because it's an online classroom which has a lot of scope for interaction as well. So that really boosts your confidence, children. Trust me on that when I say this. Okay, so it really gives you that confidence that, okay, I'm not so bad in whatever I thought I was bad in, and maybe in something else I wasn't as good as I was. It gives you that level of understanding about yourself. And one good feature is that replays of past sessions are interactive. Sessions which you've missed or sessions which you have already attended and you want to watch them once again, that ends up being interactive, as you would see, which means live quizzes and leaderboards are going to be a part of this, right? Even if it's the replay, the quizzes and leaderboards would still be like a live session. But of course, you would know it's a replay because the date and the time at which it actually happened would be there, right? And the premium handwritten notes of your master teachers will be available to you for download, and I think that's a very, very useful tool which builds a personal connect. Doubt solving. Many children are like, ma'am, in online classes, our doubts are not solved, so it's very, very difficult. What do we do about it? Children, you don't have to worry about that at Vedantu because we've got a lot of mechanisms wherein your doubts can be solved inside class, outside class, and a lot of other means, because we'll be in touch with you all the time. Master teachers and class teachers all together work with you in class as much as possible inside class, worst case outside class as well. And quality tests and assignments are also going to be part of these, because without those, preparation can't be called complete, right? And of course, micro courses and crash courses will be available for free for those of you registered for Vedantu Pro subscription. So what is the price going to be like? Because I'm talking to you about the next academic year. Children, if you check out the link in the description box below, I would suggest open it right now. Click on show more in the description box below. You would see subscribe to Vedantu Pro now and the link next to it. Click on that and you would be taken to a window. Just click on whatever you need to choose, like ICSE 2022 is what I'm talking to you about right now. So click on that and you will find all the details. Coupon code is of course AMBPRO. But have a look at this, the pricing, the 1 month subscription. And this would be the longer term subscription for the full academic year. Right, children? So the pro price for a 1 month subscription for ICSE 2022 would be rupees 3,700 for 1 full month, right? So that means for all your major subjects together, and it's not per subject. And applying the coupon code AMBPRO just reduces that to 2,960. Do you see the difference? Yes. Now for the 1 full year subscription, of course, that's there, but I would leave that completely to you. In case you've been a Vedantu student for quite some time now, you would definitely know that that's going to work for you. But if you are a new student, it's all right. Even if you just go ahead for the 1 month subscription, see how it works for you, and then go on for the full year. Okay, because for the full year subscription, it's going to be 43,740 for the entire academic year, but on top of that, applying the coupon code will reduce it to 34,992. Right, children? So I think it's important for you to have that sense of per class price, because without that, it would be difficult for you to make a decision. So as you can see, in the 1 month of subscription, you get around 200 live sessions. And that means it comes down to 14.8 per session. And in the 1 year subscription, or in the full academic year subscription, it's going to be 2,400 sessions that you can avail. And that means it comes down to 14.58 per session. So as you can see, it's not too much of a difference between the two, which is why I said it's completely your choice, children, right? 1 month, try it out, make the best use of it, see how you are adapting to it. Of course, if used in the right manner, you would realize that this is much better than any other offline class that you would ever come across. Right, children? So this is about it. As you can see, this is even lesser priced than your favorite solid masti masala. Okay, right. So now let me tell you something. I will just show you how the dashboard would look like. Okay, what the dashboard would look like once you are a registered student. Of course, over here what you see is, yes, do you see that? What you see here is, of course, my sessions, my profile, so my teacher profile. So all the sessions which I have done, my past sessions are what you see here, with the actual date at which it happened, the title of the session, and the time at which it happened, right? So all of those are mentioned here. As you can see, the replay button is there, the get notes button is there, everything else. Once you click on replay, you would see that you can see everything that happened in class on that particular day. Just like watching a recorded video of an actual class. Even all the doubts that were asked, how the class teachers and master teachers together helped children understand everything and reach the goals of that particular class, you would get a very good idea of everything. Right, children? All the quizzes, the leaderboards, who came first, and everything right there for you. Right, children? So, this is it. I would say make the best use of it while offers are still going on, so that later on you would realize that it was all for your own good. Right, children? So this is it from my side. And yes, children, so quickly summarizing whatever we've discussed today. Quite a number of terms that we've discussed: transpiration, stomata, or stomatal transpiration, cuticular transpiration, and lenticular transpiration. And then parenchyma cells is an additional term which is there. If you remember, okay, let me just tell you that, because I didn't tell you what parenchyma cells are, right? Parenchyma is one of the three major kinds of simple permanent tissue in a plant body. So parenchyma would be those cells between which there are plenty of intercellular spaces, and it's completely comprised of living cells, parenchymatous cells. And then we have collenchyma and sclerenchyma, which are the other two. Cuticle, intercellular spaces are the spaces, as you can see, between adjacent cells. Right? Then tracheal elements, I've told you, which are elements of xylem to help in water transport. Diffusion, then Epiplastic Pathway, Gratation, bleeding, Wilting, Symplastic Pathway, and wall pressure. All of these are terms which we've seen today. And children, remember, the coupon code is AMBPRO, but I suggest click on the link in the description box below. I guess right now you wouldn't have to enter in the coupon code. It will automatically, the system will enter it for you. So you don't really have to remember this and then type it in there, copy, paste, no, nothing of that sort at all. All right, guys? Because we always believe in making things much easier for you. And that's about it from my side, children. Please click on the like button if you have found this useful. Share it with all your ICSE 10 friends, okay? Because I want all of you guys to benefit from this equally. And children, stay subscribed to Vedantu 9th and 10th English, because we are going to be coming up with a lot more interesting sessions and series for you in the days and weeks to come as well. And that's about it from my side, children. Until we meet again, stay happy and stay healthy. That's all that matters. Bye-bye.